Hey guys, it's Lucas. Gonna be going through some Morez Johnson film today. After that big game against Illinois last night and his return. I've been a big fan of Morez for a long time. Saw him play in high school a few times. I actually saw the last game of his high school career and a few other games, while he was at high school. And been a big fan of his for a while, even, at Illinois last year. And I was really excited to see him in this role here at Michigan this year. So before we get going, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like the video, comment your thoughts about Morez Johnson, maybe what teams you think he fits best with, what you like, what you don't like, whatever. So I've got a lottery grade on Morez. I'm just pretty confident in him being a winning player, contributor. So let's let's just kind of get right in. Let's start with the defense because I think if you're high on Morez, a good bit of that is probably because of what he brings on the defensive side of the ball. He's disruptive, he's switchable, big block right there. That's one of the things, as a shot blocker, he's got really good timing. You really can't go up with any like weak shit around him. He'll swat it and he knows when to rotate. He's good in help side. As you can see on that play right there, he can step out and guard the perimeter. Um, he's switchable. He makes defensive plays. He's physical. You see that on both sides of the floor with Morez. He can guard the pick and roll in a variety of ways. Look at him moving his feet right there. Get there on the closeout. Switch back over onto Fears. As you see, you see what's going on. And guard the pick and roll in a variety of ways. Like I said, he can drop, he can hedge, he can switch, all of that good stuff. And when he switches onto the perimeter, he does it well. We got some, oh wait, I think, oh no, it's still defense on the video. I didn't want to get too far ahead. When he switches on the perimeter, he does it well. You can tell that he takes pride on the defensive side of the ball. And when you pair that with like really good tools and instincts, I think that there's a lot to like. As you can see, he's racing back in transition, pinning these shots on the chase down, guarding the perimeter, mirroring his defenders. He's not afraid to get his hands in there. Um, I'm gonna pause it real quick, but he's got the strength to wall opponents up down low as well. He can guard out on the perimeter. Well, he can hold his own out there for sure. He can, be a weak side, help side shot blocker. He's got the strength to play some small ball 5 minutes and the length. Um, he's got disruptive length, like I said multiple times already. Kind of talking in circles at this point, but you can just always tell how engaged he is. He communicates. He reads the floor well, and he's always got really good anticipation of what's going to happen, and his motor is just always going, always on both sides of the floor. Um, and then one of the best parts about it, is he's a great rebounder. So he's ending these possessions and turning defense into offense. And obviously paired alongside a really good Michigan team and Ademara, who's obviously huge and a phenomenal rim protector by his own. So both of those guys together, I saw teams that they're basically not scoring. Obviously being a little obviously exaggerating a little bit there, but those guys together, so if he ends up alongside like a Chet Holmgren or Victor Wembanyama, obviously, or a Zach Edey or any of these big guys, I think that you're probably okay. You hope he shoots the three ball well enough to play the four, or otherwise he's just going to play some small ball 5 minutes. But I'm a big fan. I really think that he can impact the game in a variety of ways, even if he's not doing anything overly versatile on the offensive side. So we're going to continue to get through some of these defensive plays that stood out to me and that I clipped up before we get into the offense a little bit. A little late on the contest right there, but let's see what happens here. Communicating, he's always doing that. Like he just pointed right there, telling his defenders where to go. He's always doing that. Doesn't leave the ground too much, able to slide with the defender, stay with him, get his hands up without fouling. So getting into the offense a little bit, Morez sets, we're going to look at some of his pick and roll possessions right here, like as the roller and the screener. Great athleticism right there, put him on a poster. He sets screens with a pretty wide base, and he's got super good movement skills, just like on that play right there. I like the upside with him attacking downhill off a dribble or two. And obviously he's got the ability and the athleticism to finish above the rim, but he's also got the touch to finish like to finish around the rim with soft touch. You're going to see that on a couple of plays here, but he's a lob threat, like you saw right there. Doesn't dunk that one, but wide base, slips, able to finish through the contact. Such a physical player. There are some times where he's maybe a little bit too quick to slip, especially when he doesn't need to, but I mean, that's okay. Still working on these things, of course. Right there, just finishing through contact so much. That was an and one. Look at some of the rebounding, some of the offensive putback stuff now. He's got just under a 13 offensive rebounding percentage. He's not afraid to get in there and fight for the boards. Like I said, high motor. You see that on the glass. You see that defensively. You see that offensively, finishing through contact, and always moving, always getting back in transition on defense, or getting back in transition on defense or offense is what I'm trying to say. And he's got a near 20 defensive rebounding percentage, and like when you account for these numbers, when you account for the fact that he's playing alongside another big man like Mara, and then obviously Yaxel and all these other guys that are able to grab boards, I think it's pretty impressive. And before we continue to go, I want to say a little bit more about his rebounding. He's got great timing as a rebounder. He's long, he's athletic, like I said. That obviously shows up in a variety of ways. And there are some times where he probably goes up a little bit too quickly after getting a rebound, like with some contested BS, but like he handles physicality pretty well and he draws fouls pretty well. He still grades out like in the 93rd percentile, I believe, on putback plays. And this might be an area where sometimes you wish he was like an inch or two taller at times, but he creates second chance opportunities. And like I said, when you account for the fact that who he's sharing the court with, I think, you like what you see. You like the rebounding numbers with Morez. So we're going to look at some plays of him playing like off cuts. He's a willing cutter. Sometimes in the dunker spot right there, poster on Cam Boozer. That's great. Look at the body adjustment mid-air. He plays really well out of the dunker spot, and he's always ready. He knows where to be and when to be there. And like I said earlier, can serve as a lob threat. He's got a good vertical, I think he's going to kill the combine, like measurables, athletic testing, all of that. And, he's got good touch. He's patient. He knows when to slip towards the hoop. Well, more like cut to the hoop is more so what I mean. Because like I said, sometimes slips a little too early on the rolls. But got great hands, and that's great. Because like I said, knows where to be. And you know what I'm trying to say. And he's cutting with purpose. He's cutting ready to catch the ball. And he runs a good high-low game with Mara. And he can flash to the nail area, attack from there, whatever, blah, blah. You get me. Post-ups. His strength and his physicality, all of that continues to show up here. You're going to continue hearing me say that. He's got a good base. He's got a good frame. He doesn't really get bumped off his spots too often. And obviously, you're probably not going to see NBA teams run a whole bunch of post-up sessions for Morez Johnson, but he does a good job of sealing off defenders, and most of the time, he is just quick to make his decision, and he goes up quickly, and he looks good when he does that, when he keeps it simple. There are some times where maybe he tries to do a little bit too much or to operate out of a double team, and, it can get a little dicey there, but an NBA team isn't really going to be asking him to do that. They're going to ask him to be quick with it. So the physicality really shows up there. Physicality, ability to play through contact there. Drew a foul. I know he didn't make the shot on that last one, but transition, he's just great, as you're seeing in the clips now. He runs the floor so well in transition. He moves so well for his size. He's pretty fast for his size. And he's got long strides, And the athleticism and everything, the length, all of that just continues to pop. And I know I sound like a broken record, but his motor is always running, and he knows where to be. He runs the lanes. He understands spacing, like alongside his guards and alongside his wings and all of that. And maybe there's some potential down the line to step in behind a play as a trailer and maybe hit some jump shots there. We're going to talk more about the jump shot here in a minute and some of the improvements that he's made in that area. But here we go. The clips start to pop now. Defender's way down, so he just steps out, lets it fly. It's one of the biggest swing skills for Morez. He is currently 7 out of 19 on the season, and which is it's nearly 37%, but obviously that's on low volume. His free throw percentage, though, is right under 80%, which is a solid indicator that there might be a little bit of untapped potential from deep. And don't get me wrong, I don't think he's going to be Karl Anthony Towns or anything like that, but if he can step out and hit him at a relatively consistent rate here and there, that'd be great. He's got a high release point. We've already seen some improvements. His touch in the paint is a good indicator. His free throw percentage is nice. You know, you get what I'm trying to say. A consistent three-point shot would obviously help him fit alongside a wider variety of big men as well. So Morez seems like a hard worker. Would love to see him continue to work on that. And if he becomes a threat to knock it down off the catch at the NBA level, that just opens up so much more for him and his upside and whatnot. I'm going to look at a few passing plays here. You know, Morez isn't really making any crazy live dribble reads or anything, and he's not doing anything overly advanced. He's not really passing his teammates open, but I think there's some interesting stuff here. As you can see, right there on a couple other plays as well, I think that you can run a little dribble handoff stuff with him. He's a quick to get it out in transition, right there. And there's a few of these passes where you see just a quick decision. And, you definitely don't, right there, I like that one. You definitely don't look at Morez and think oh, he's this extreme decision maker. He's not a playmaking big by any means, but he's a good skip passer too, which I really like. And, he just gets some easy assists off kickouts and whatever too. But he was only averaging 0.3 assists last year, and he's up to 1.2 or something like that right now. So it's at least a step in the right direction, about equal with the assist to turnover rate. That's all we got for the Clips now. But, like I said at the beginning, I've got a lottery grade on Morez. I'm just pretty confident in him being a winning player, a contributor for a good team, and a valuable defensive asset that really doesn't require much offensive usage. And if he can guard multiple positions, and I don't think that he's going to step out and guard wings or guards really a majority of the time, but on a switch or in a switching scheme, he's able to hold his own on that side. His combination of physicality, motor, and all of that versatility on the defensive side, it's just I'm just a big fan of Morez's game. I still see some people with him in the second round, and I think that's just too low. Obviously, we'll have to see if he stays in the draft class and what the pre-draft process looks like for him and everything. But like I said, I think that, he goes to the combine, he's going to kill it. Athletic testing, measurables, I think all of that stuff is going to really help Morez's stock. And I think a team like Oklahoma City, who I'm a fan of, I would love if we drafted Morez. I got to assume a team like Memphis or a team like Toronto, even if there's a little bit of overlap, I got to assume that these are teams that would love what Morez would bring to the table. Maybe not the highest ceiling, but like I said, just confidence in him being a winning player, a contributor. If you're drafting in the 11 to 20 range, give or take, you're more than likely not finding, obviously you can find good talent, but I think you understand what I'm trying to say. If you find a guy that can be a fifth starter or a valuable rotation piece for a winning team, a winning player, I think that's a guy you want 10 out of 10 times. So thank you guys all for watching. I appreciate if you made it this far. Please subscribe if you haven't. Comment your thoughts. Go follow me on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it, at RedCooteay, and have a good day.